And Joe Rogan, the king of all podcasting, a very sharp guy. Joe Rogan doesn't like the video games. He says the video games are a waste of time. Joe Rogan is completely wrong about this. I cannot believe it that I have got to defend video games, but I do. Take a listen to Joe's point.
And video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fun.
Addictive.
And you don't, yeah, well, I have a real problem with them. And you do them and they're real exciting, but you don't get anywhere.
Right.
It's like you could do like martial arts, right? You could learn jujitsu. You get obsessed by jiu-jitsu, and then 3 years later, you're like an elite jiu-jitsu athlete. You're entering in competitions. You're a purple belt.
You're moving up.
Yeah, you're doing well. Right. You're thinking like, I might be able to open my own school one day.
You got confidence.
Yeah, if I have 100 students and those 100 students are paying me X amount of dollars per month, I can make a living. Holy shit, I can have this would be amazing. And then you see your jiu-jitsu school, and your jiu-jitsu instructor has all these students and drives a Mercedes, and he's got a nice family, and like, that's the future. This way you're doing something exciting and fun, and you don't. Or you could just be playing video games. 3 years later, you could be that same kid just playing video games, waiting for the next whatever the game is, next Xbox game to come out, and you're going to waste your time.
So on the one level, Joe is making an important point, which is don't waste your time doing fruitless things. But the way he's making the point is totally wrong. And I think a lot of people kind of follow Joe's line of argument here, but you shouldn't, because that's one of the problems that's ailing our society. Joe's point is that anything that cannot possibly make you money is a waste of your time. Even the way he talks about jiu-jitsu, he says, yeah, look, jiu-jitsu is great, and you work on it. And jiu-jitsu is really great because then you can start a jiu-jitsu school and make a lot of money from the students at the jiu-jitsu school. That is, I guess you could in jiu-jitsu, but on Joe's point that anything that can't make you money is a waste of time, not only is that not true, but for the entire history of Western civilization, that has been considered the opposite of true. Actually, for the entirety of Western civilization, the things that make you money are considered relatively a waste of time compared to the higher things. What do I mean by that? Going back all the way to ancient Greece, the thing that man was built for was for leisure in a certain sense, so that he could contemplate philosophy, so that he could contemplate the good, so that he could focus his mind not just on the things of this world, but on the things of the higher world. And then in Christianity, of course, this becomes extraordinarily clear, which is that your point in Christianity is not just to serve mammon and make a lot of money and build a lot of big buildings, and that's it for its own sake. All of those things can be fine to do as long as they are ordered toward the higher things. Your ultimate goal is your salvation. Your ultimate goal is to contemplate God, to have the beatific vision, to work on the things of the Spirit. That is what you've got to do. Now we've changed this into like, I'm just on my hustle, I'm just on my grind, I'm just figuring out ways to make money. You won't be a rounded person that way. You won't have a culture. What is the word culture? The word culture comes from the same root as the word cult. It comes from the word like to cultivate. You've got to cultivate the human person. And in order to do that, you have to orient it toward things that you want to be cultivated like. So for instance, what a society worships will define that society. If a culture worships money, it's going to become a materialistic culture. We're seeing a lot of that today. If a culture worships sex, it's going to become a licentious culture. If a culture worships God, if a culture worships the good, it's going to be a better, more godly culture. And that's how you've got to orient yourself. If you want to have this good culture, conservatives they make this mistake a lot. The left, they're all kind of materialists in a certain way, going back at least to Karl Marx. But the right used to care about these things. And then sometime in the 80s, the right decided to trade all that in for like parodies of The Wolf of Wall Street or Greed is Good or something like that. Pretend that all our lives are just about making money. That's not a conservative point of view. And that's not going to give you a culture. If you say, okay, yeah, we're going to have just constant churning of every traditional institution and just make more money, then what are you conserving? You're not a conservative at all. The other reason, beyond all of that, those are kind of the highfalutin reasons. The other reason why Joe's point I think is a little misguided here is people need a break. People need to relax sometimes. I'm not saying you don't want to be a loaf, you don't want to be slothful, but sometimes people need a break. They need to relax. Sometimes video games can provide that. They're like a puzzle, right? It's like doing a crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle or something like that. You don't want it to take over your life, and I think that's the point Joe's actually making. But as a little bit of a break, I think they can be perfectly fine. And more importantly, if your life is only oriented toward making money and filling up your bank account, and that's all just for its own sake, for no other reason, that life is no better than the life squandered playing video games all day. There is another option, and that other option is the thing that, for the entire history of our civilization, has been deemed to be fulfilling and gratifying, and it's the thing that in our now culture-smashing society we seem to have forgotten. I hope you enjoyed that short segment from the Michael Knowles Show. Be sure to check out the full episode linked in the description or download the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.